In a world of empires, wars, and men, one woman, seemingly fragile, would alter the course of science, medicine, and conflict forever. Her name was Marie Curie. She discovered invisible forces that could heal and kill. She would go on to save millions of lives and ultimately pay for it with her own. This is the story of the woman who defied death and gave a name to the unseen, forever changing our world, even as it quietly demanded a price. Born in 1867 as Maria Skłodowska, she grew up in Poland, a nation crushed under the boot of the Russian Empire. For a young woman with a brilliant mind, the world was a series of closed doors. Women were forbidden from higher education, and scientific knowledge was a tool of control. But Maria learned a crucial lesson early on. You can occupy a country, but you cannot occupy a mind. In secret, attending a clandestine flying university, she absorbed knowledge like air, fueling a dream that seemed impossible. To study at the Sorbonne in Paris, she worked for years as a governess, sending money to her sister and saving every last coin, her gaze fixed on the distant lights of intellectual freedom. Arriving in Paris, alone and with barely enough money to survive, Marie faced a new kind of battle. She was often so poor she went hungry, sometimes fainting from weakness during her classes. Yet, her resolve never wavered. The hunger for knowledge was far stronger than the hunger for food. At the Sorbonne, amidst the hallowed halls of learning, she found something more precious than gold: the freedom to question, to explore, and to excel. It was there she met Marie Curie, a brilliant scientist who saw in her not just a woman but an intellectual equal. Their connection was immediate, a partnership forged in a shared passion for discovery. They married, and their love story became a scientific odyssey. Their laboratory wasn't a grand institution. It was a drafty, leaky shed, an improvised space where they would challenge the very foundations of physics. Working with pitchblende, a uranium-rich, or Marie noticed something extraordinary. The material was emitting rays far more powerful than the uranium alone could explain. She theorized that another unknown element must be present. It was a bold idea, one that defied conventional wisdom. Day after day, night after night, she and Pierre undertook the colossal task of isolating this mysterious substance. It was grueling physical labor, stirring huge vats of boiling chemicals, their hands raw, their bodies aching. They were working completely unprotected, unaware of the invisible danger they were handling. Finally, after years of relentless effort, they succeeded. They discovered not one, but two new elements. The first she named Polonium, a tribute to her lost homeland. The second was a luminous, powerful substance she called Radium. She gave a name to the phenomenon itself, a force emanating from the very heart of the atom: radioactivity. The invisible had been made known. Marie Curie shattered barriers, becoming the first woman ever to win a Nobel Prize, sharing the 1903 award in physics with Pierre and Henry Becquerel. After Pierre's tragic death, she continued their work with even greater determination. In 1911, she achieved the unthinkable, winning a second Nobel Prize, this time in chemistry. For her work on radium and polonium, to this day, she remains the only person to have won Nobel Prizes in two different scientific fields. But glory came with a heavy price. As a woman and a foreigner, she was a target for vicious attacks in the press. The scientific establishment, while forced to recognize her genius, often treated her with suspicion and misogyny. She was discredited, surveilled, and her personal life was turned into a public scandal. Yet through it all, she held her head high, a titan of science, fighting a lonely war against prejudice. Then, in 1914, the world erupted. The First World War began, and Europe started to bleed. The battlefields became factories of death and injury, with millions of soldiers suffering horrific wounds from shrapnel and bullets. In the chaotic field hospitals, surgeons worked blind, unable to locate projectiles lodged deep within the body, leading to countless amputations and deaths. While generals thought in terms of men and munitions, Marie Curie saw a different path to salvation. She understood that her discovery X-rays could be used to see inside the wounded and guide surgeons with precision. Her revolutionary idea was to take the technology to the front lines. She didn't wait for permission or government funding. With unstoppable drive, she created, financed, and deployed the first radiological ambulances in history. She persuaded wealthy patrons to donate cars and money, and she equipped them with X-ray machines powered by dynamos. These mobile units became known as Petites Curies, Little Curies. They were a miracle on the battlefield. Marie, along with her teenage daughter Irene, trained 150 women as radiological assistants and drove to the front herself, often under dangerous conditions. She taught army surgeons how to use the equipment to locate fractures and shrapnel, transforming battlefield medicine. It is estimated that her Petites Curies treated over 1 million wounded soldiers, saving an untold number of lives and limbs. She was a scientist turned wartime savior. Throughout her life, Marie Curie had an almost mystical belief in the purity of science. She saw radioactivity as a source of light and healing. She famously carried vials of radium in her pocket, marveling at the faint, beautiful glow they emitted in the dark. She and her fellow researchers painted it onto clock faces and instruments, handled it with their bare hands, and breathed in its dust, utterly oblivious to the silent, deadly cost. The constant cumulative exposure took its toll. Over the years, she grew weaker, her body ravaged by an invisible enemy. She suffered from aplastic anemia, a disease where the bone marrow fails to produce new blood cells, a direct result of her long-term radiation exposure. In 1934, the woman who had survived poverty, prejudice, and war finally succumbed to the very element she had gifted to the world. Even today, her notebooks from the 1890s are so radioactive they must be stored in light-lined boxes, a testament to the intensity of her work. Marie Curie died before the full implications of her discovery were unleashed. Radioactivity opened doors she could never have imagined, leading to advancements in nuclear physics that would culminate in the atomic age. Her work, and that of her daughter Irene Joliot Curie, who also won a Nobel Prize, laid the indirect groundwork for the Manhattan Project and the creation of nuclear weapons. The same force that could pinpoint shrapnel in a soldier's body could now level entire cities. This created a profound ethical dilemma that continues to haunt science: the double-edged sword of discovery, capable of both immense good and unimaginable destruction. Marie Curie died without ever knowing the full scale of the lives she had saved, both in war and in peace, but her legacy is immortal. It lives on in every X-ray, in every life-saving radiation treatment for cancer, and in the very energy that powers our world. She proved that the will of a single individual can change human destiny. Her story is a powerful reminder that knowledge illuminates, but it also demands responsibility. If Marie Curie's incredible story inspired you, please like this video and share it with others. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to keep exploring the great stories that changed our world. Thanks for watching.